Hey everyone! Welcome to Update X24H, your go-to channel for the latest news, hottest dramas, breaking stories, and all the buzz from the world of entertainment. We're here to keep you updated, entertained, and always in the loop. Hit that subscribe button and join our growing family, because here at Update X24H, we bring you the news that matters, the drama you love, and the stories you can't miss. Thanks for being part of our community. Let's stay connected, stay updated, and keep the good vibes rolling. What if a single night in Beijing could redraw the map of what millions believe about truth, power, and the internet? The story of Yu Meng Long is not only a personal heartbreak, it is a stress test for an entire information system. When a beloved figure dies and the public square turns strangely quiet, people don't stop talking. They speak in symbols, side rooms, and soft voices that travel farther than anyone expects. Tonight, we're not feeding rumors. We're tracing patterns you can recognize anywhere. Where silence breeds noise, where deleting posts makes them brighter, and where control without trust becomes a spark, not a shield. This isn't an attack, nor a defense. It's an invitation to look closely at the mechanics shaping what we see, what we share, and what we are allowed to feel. If you're ready for a difficult story told with care, stay with me, because how we tell this matters almost as much as what happened. On September 11, 2025, reports said actor Yu Meng Long had died after a fall in Beijing. Public grief arrived like a tide, swift, sincere, overwhelming. Then something shifted. Posts disappeared. Keywords stopped working. Headlines began to sound curiously alike, as though sourced from one sheet of paper. In hours, a private tragedy became a public puzzle. People weren't simply asking what happened. They were asking why the story felt so thin. In highly moderated ecosystems, platforms commonly deploy keyword filtering, post takedowns, and rapid repost deletion cascades, mechanisms documented in research on Chinese social media, particularly Weibo's proactive filters and network-wide removal practices. That technical layer is important, but it's not the whole picture. When you compress a conversation, it doesn't vanish, it atomises. It travels through coded language, emojis, and private groups. Tactics scholars describe as recoding to slip past blacklists. Science direct. At street level, the effect is human. Confusion hardens into doubt, and doubt asks for proof. The scene is set, not by a single rumor, but by a vacuum where clarity should be. This is bigger than one heartbreaking loss. The real subject is trust, the social currency that makes any statement believable. When official remarks arrive terse and light on evidence, and when supposedly routine footage suddenly becomes unavailable, people instinctively reach for an explanation. Leaders in modern systems have warned of the Tacitus trap, the point at which the public distrusts actions because of who performs them, not what they are. Once you cross that invisible line, even genuine clarifications sound like spin. Meanwhile, engagement-driven algorithms across platforms, East and West, tend to amplify posts that are more emotional, often angrier and more divisive, which can crowd out nuance. The stakes then are simple and profound. If trust erodes, public conversation becomes an echo chamber of intensity rather than clarity. That doesn't just wound institutions. It wounds communities as people split into camps of certainty without shared facts. A story about one actor becomes a referendum on credibility itself. We know the date. We know the first reports. We know the wave of grief, the quickened moderation, and the proliferation of coded talk. We don't know the full, uncut chain of events in Yu's final hours, nor the private pain of those closest to him. Responsible storytelling draws a line here. We don't name villains, invent timelines, or trade in shock for clicks. Instead, we examine the information environment. How fast identical headlines appeared, how keywords went dark, how conversations migrated from public feeds to private channels. Academic and policy analyses describe Chinese information control as multilayered, legal, technical, and editorial, spanning keyword lists, platform-level compliance, and narrative steering. At the same time, citizens, whether in China or elsewhere, learn to adapt. Euphemisms, homophones, and emojis become tools of persistence, as seen in movements that retag sensitive topics to avoid filters. Our promise to you is simple. Facts first, humility always. Where the record is incomplete, we say so. Here lies the paradox. Stronger suppression can make a story louder. This is colloquially known as the Streisand effect, attempts to hide information that instead amplify it. On tightly moderated networks, deletion is rarely surgical. It is network-wide. When a sensitive post is flagged, automated tools often sweep up its reposts, comments, and derivatives, producing a visible hole that simply invites reconstruction elsewhere. The result is a hydra. One head is cut. 3 grow in private groups, mirrors, or encrypted chats. Add algorithms that prioritize engagement, and emotionally charged speculation can outrun sober updates by orders of magnitude. None of this proves a cover-up. It proves the physics of attention. People are drawn to what seems forbidden, to puzzles with missing pieces, to stories that feel unfinished. And unfinished tales don't end, they recruit. The more gaps, the more theories. The more theories, the harder it is for any official clarification to land, even if it is genuine and timely. Silence has side effects. Suppressed grief rarely evaporates. It metastasizes into symbols, white flowers at a fence, candles in a window, songs posted without captions. In psychology, this is a form of reactance. When people feel their expression is constrained, they search for alternative channels, often more creative and resilient. The coded language that blossoms in censored spaces isn't childish. It is adaptive. Emoji, homophones, and visual metaphors become a living lexicon that keeps communities connected without using prescribed words. Importantly, these symbols do 2 jobs at once. They comfort the grieving and they quietly challenge the narrative boundary. That double function is why authorities fear ambiguity almost as much as accusation. A flower is hard to ban. For audiences outside China, the lesson travels well. When anything, be it a scandal, a policy, or a personal story, is forced off the record, look for the poetry at the edges. It often says what prose no longer can. From Tokyo and Seoul to Paris, Los Angeles, and Toronto, communities have seen variations of this cycle. A shocking event, rapid moderation, a race for explanation, and a new round of questions about how to balance stability and transparency. Analysts and rights groups have documented China's sophisticated methods of shaping discourse at home, and, at times, pressuring narratives abroad, especially among diaspora communities. But step back. Every country now wrestles with the same tensions in a platformist world. When institutions speak late, vaguely, or defensively, the vacuum fills, sometimes with empathy, often with anger. Engagement-optimized feeds then tilt towards heat rather than light. The international takeaway isn't us versus them. It is this: credibility is the only export that compounds. Countries and platforms that share both what they know and what they don't tend to retain public patience. Those that choke the feed without explanation often discover the tide returning stronger than before. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You aren't just watching this story, you're co-writing it. Your shares and comments teach algorithms what to boost. Your appetite for certainty trains creators what to make next. Studies of engagement-based rankings show that anger and outgroup hostility are often overrepresented in algorithmic picks, even when users say such content makes them feel worse. That doesn't mean you should disengage. It means you can steer. Before reposting, ask, does this add signal or only heat? Could I frame a question that invites evidence rather than escalation? Could I wait for a second independent source? Small habits scale. When millions adopt them, the feed changes shape. In that sense, audience discipline is not passivity, it is civic power. The calm, patient user is not naive. They're strategic. The verification minute. Spend 60 seconds checking the original upload date, creator, and any uncut versions. Signal questions. Comment with, has this been corroborated? Or, is there a primary source? You cool the room and raise the bar. Community tribute plus guardrails. Host a digital candle wall for Yu Meng Long, while pinning a short verification guide. Grief and rigor can coexist. Open source timeline. Build a neutral time-stamped index of public facts with links. Opinions below the line. Context cards. Add a short explainer on concepts like the Streisand effect or Tacitus trap to help viewers recognize patterns without jumping to conclusions. Well-being intervals. After heavy segments, prompt viewers to stand, breathe, sip water. Clear heads write kinder comments. Mirror checks. Global encourage viewers to recall similar patterns in their own countries. Recognition beats moralizing. Creator pledge. No unverified accusations. Label uncertainty. Correct quickly and visibly. These are small levers with outsized effects, because the architecture of attention is surprisingly responsive to better habits. Behind every headline is a family, a circle of friends, crews who worked long nights, and fans who found courage in someone's smile. Yu Meng Long was widely admired for gentleness and humility. To speak his name ethically is to center dignity. That means resisting the quick dopamine of speculation and respecting boundaries where facts are thin. It also means giving people space to mourn in peace. If you wish to honor his memory, consider art, scholarship, or community service in his name, actions that generate light rather than heat. One more note. Be wary of the aesthetic of certainty. Online, confidence often masquerades as truth. In real life, responsible people hold complexity with open hands. If we can do that together, we turn a painful story into a lesson in empathy and intellectual honesty. That is a tribute worthy of anyone we've lost. Control can hold a line for a day. Credibility can hold a nation for a lifetime. The digital public square punishes vagueness and rewards candor. Even candor about uncertainty. When institutions share what they know, what they don't, and what they are doing to find out, they don't look weak, they look serious. Scholars and policymakers have long warned that once a Tacitus-style distrust sets in, even sensible policies are read as hostile. The countermeasure is not louder messaging. It is visible methodology. Show your work, release timelines, publish audits, explain delays. Pair that with platforms adjusting incentives away from pure engagement towards user well-being. An agenda now surfacing across tech debates worldwide. We may never learn every private detail of that night, but we can choose the kind of public we become. Compassionate enough to grieve without exploiting. Careful enough to check before we share. Courageous enough to ask for better from those who lead and the platforms we use. If silence becomes policy, voices will find new roads. The wiser course is to build roads together. Institutions, creators, and audiences all doing their part. Openly, honestly, patiently. That is how pain becomes wisdom rather than endless noise. And that is how a single tragedy stops echoing as a permanent fracture. If this episode offered clarity, comfort, or simply better questions, please subscribe to Update X24H, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who cares about truth handled responsibly. Your support helps us make careful journalism sustainable. Scripts with citations, corrections when needed, and human stories told with dignity. Thank you for watching, for thinking deeply, and for keeping your heart kind. Stay curious, stay compassionate, and stay with Update X24H.